I never thought I'd be that guy, the one who gets blindsided at his own engagement party. I was so proud that night, standing there with my fiancée, Emily, surrounded by friends, laughter echoing in the background, balloons floating overhead. The scent of sweet cake and expensive cologne mixed in the air. I remember feeling on top of the world. That's until I saw him, Mark, my best man, leaning in close to Emily, whispering something that made her blush. I was too distracted by the crowd to pay much mind at first, but then I noticed how Mark's hand rested just a little too long on her waist, and Emily's eyes flicked to him with a nervous smile that didn't quite reach her face. It was strange, seeing my best friend and my fiancé acting that way. I shrugged it off, told myself it was just a joke or maybe some inside joke I wasn't part of, but deep down, I felt a strange prickling in my gut. I brushed it aside as jealousy or paranoia. After all, I trusted her. I was naive. Later that night, I was buzzing from the champagne, still thinking about the way Emily had looked at Mark during the toast. That's when I noticed her phone sitting face up on the table, the screen lit up with a new message. I didn't mean to look, but my eyes caught a snippet of the text. It was from Mark, something about meeting up later and a quick "can't wait to see you again." My stomach sank. I felt like I'd been hit hard in the gut. I leaned closer, trying to pretend I wasn't interested, but my fingers trembled as I reached out and tapped the phone. The messages kept coming, full of little flirty exchanges, plans, emojis. I couldn't believe my eyes. My mind raced with questions. Was this just a joke? A misunderstanding? Or, no, it was something more. The worst part, I knew I couldn't confront her right then, not with all our friends around, so I waited. I kept my distance, trying to find a way to process what I'd seen. That night I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, clutching that piece of my shattered trust. I was angry, confused, and betrayed all at once. How long had this been going on? Months? Longer, I wondered. If I'd missed the signs while I was busy planning our future. Next morning I woke up with a pounding headache and a clear resolve. I had to find out everything. I needed to know if this was just a fling or something more serious. I started digging into her phone, looking for clues I might have missed. And sure enough, buried in her messages, I found the proof I'd dreaded. They were planning secret meetups, late-night texts, plans to keep things hidden from me. That's when I realized I was never going to get closure if I didn't take matters into my own hands. I spent the next couple of days devising a plan. I knew I wanted to confront her, but I needed a way to do it that would hit her where it hurt without turning into some revenge tantrum. I wanted her to see what she'd lost, what she'd thrown away. I started setting up my plan carefully, gathering all the evidence, making sure I had everything documented. I wanted her to understand that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I wasn't going to be a pushover. The thing about revenge is it's a game of patience. You wait for the right moment. You take your time to craft your move. That's what I did. I kept calm on the surface, but inside I was boiling. Every time I saw her smile or her laugh, I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. That's when I knew I had to do something drastic. I couldn't just let her get away with this. Not after what I'd seen, not after those secret texts. The betrayal was too deep. So I decided I'd confront her at her apartment where I knew she'd be alone. I made sure I had the evidence ready to show her. I wanted her to see, with her own eyes, what I'd uncovered. I didn't want to yell or scream. I wanted her to understand that I'd caught her red-handed. I was going to give her a taste of her own medicine and then walk away, leaving her to face the mess she'd made. All that was left was to wait for the right moment to strike. The anticipation was worse than the betrayal itself. I could feel my heartbeat pounding in my ears every time I thought about it. The plan was set, the evidence ready, and I was just counting down the hours until I could finally end this nightmare. But I wondered, was I really ready to face the fallout? Or was I just about to make things worse? The day I decided to confront her, everything felt heavier. I woke up with that familiar gnawing in my stomach, like a knot I couldn't untie. I kept replaying what I'd seen, the messages, her nervous glances, Mark's touch, all of it. I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. Not anymore. Still, I told myself to stay calm. Calm was important. If I lost my temper, I'd give her an excuse to dismiss everything as a crazy outburst. I spent the morning cleaning my head and gathering the evidence. I printed out the texts, saved screenshots, packed everything into a folder on my laptop. I needed her to see what I'd uncovered in black and white. No room for denial. I also bought a small voice recorder, just in case I needed to document anything she said that might be useful later. I wasn't planning to yell, but I knew I'd need to. Be prepared for anything. By mid-afternoon, I was sitting in my car outside her apartment, heart knocking against my ribs. The plan was simple. I'd walk in, confront her with everything, and leave. No shouting, no accusations, just facts. That's what I told myself. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool air fill my lungs, then stepped out and locked the door behind me. Her place was small but cozy. I could smell the faint scent of vanilla and something sharper, maybe her perfume. The door opened before I could knock, and she looked surprised, maybe even nervous. I kept my face as steady as I could. "Hey," she said, voice a little shaky. "What are you doing here?" I didn't rush into it. Instead, I pulled out the folder with the evidence and held it up. "I found something," I said evenly. "Something I think you need to see." Her eyes widened and she started to protest, but I cut her off. "Don't, just look." I placed the folder on the coffee table and watched her open it, her hands trembling slightly. Eyes scanning the printed texts, her face blanched. Her lips parted, but she didn't say anything right away. I didn't expect her to. I just waited for her to face what she'd done. "You've been lying," I said softly but firmly. "Months of lies. Tell me, Emily, what is this?" I tapped the screen of my phone that had the screenshots, making sure she saw the messages. She looked down, then slowly sat on the edge of the couch. Her hands were trembling now, and I saw the flicker of guilt in her eyes. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "Oh, really?" I snapped back. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you've been cheating on me with my best man, Mark, isn't that right?" Her eyes darted away. "It's complicated," she mumbled. "Complicated, that's a hell of a story. You lied to my face for months. I was planning a future with you, and you were busy sneaking around behind my back." My voice shook, but I kept it controlled. Inside, I felt like my entire world was crumbling. "You don't understand," she said, voice cracking. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to get this far, didn't mean for it to get this far," I echoed. "You've been exchanging messages, planning meetups, hiding your phone. That's not accidental, Emily, that's betrayal. And I have recordings of your voice messages, too. Want to hear what you said to him?" Her eyes widened even more and she shook her head. "Please just listen." "No," I cut her off. "I've heard enough. I'm done." My stomach twisted painfully. I felt the blood pounding in my ears, but I kept my voice steady. "You broke my trust, and I think it's best if you leave. I don't see any reason to stay here and pretend everything's okay." She looked like she wanted to say something, but then she just stood up, tears streaming down her face. "I never meant to hurt you. I was stupid, I was lonely, and Mark made me feel alive again. I didn't think it would actually ruin everything." I felt a surge of anger, but I pushed it aside. "That's your excuse. I trusted you, Emily. I believed in us. And now I see it was all a lie." I handed her back her phone. "The evidence still on the screen. You can keep that. I don't want it anymore. Just get out of my life." She stumbled to the door, clutching her purse, her voice trembling. "Can we at least talk, please?" "No," I said coldly. "There's nothing left to say, just go." As she left, I closed the door behind her, leaning back against it. My hands were clenched tight, palms slick. The silence in the apartment was deafening. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, yet somehow a strange calm settled over me. I knew this was just the beginning. The real work was ahead. I sat on the couch, staring at the door she just walked out of. I realized I'd never felt this kind of betrayal before. The betrayal of someone I loved, someone I trusted with everything. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. No way. The revenge plan I'd crafted was already in motion, and I was about to see it through. Because no one, not even my ex-fiancé, was going to walk all over me and get away clean. I had to get my life back, and I'd do whatever it took. After she left, silence settled like a heavy blanket over my apartment. I felt numb, but at the same time, every nerve in my body was tingling with a strange, dark energy. I knew I'd succeeded in confronting her, but this wasn't a victory. It was just the opening act. The real game was about to start. I needed to be precise, cold, and deliberate. Revenge isn't about losing control, it's about controlling the aftermath. I sat there for a minute, catching my breath, then reached for my laptop. I pulled up every file, every message, every photo I'd saved, making sure I had everything I needed. I didn't want any surprises. I had a plan and I was determined to see it through. The first step was simple. I had to make her understand that I knew everything, that I was done falling for her lies. But I wasn't just planning a tantrum. No. I wanted her to understand that she'd crossed a line and there would be consequences. I wanted her to feel that pinch of regret, that gnawing uncertainty about what was coming next. That's why I prepared a little package to send her, not just evidence but also a message. I crafted a short email, cold and calculated. I named it The End because that's what it was. I attached all the screenshots, the recordings, the timeline of her lies. I added a simple note: "Don't contact me again. You made your choice." Then I sent it, watching the sending bar crawl across the screen. I didn't tell her I'd done it right away. I wanted her to wonder, to panic, to realize she'd pushed me too far. For the next few hours, I kept busy trying to focus on anything else. But the truth was, I was already planning my next move. I knew she'd reach out, maybe try to smooth things over or deny everything. But I had more than enough evidence to shut that down fast. Later that evening, just as I expected, my phone buzzed with her name flashing on the screen. My stomach clenched. I hesitated, then slowly answered, trying to keep my voice neutral. "What do you want?" "I saw the email," she said, voice trembling. "Please, can we talk? I didn't mean for it to get so out of hand. I love you. I made a mistake." I took a breath, feeling the familiar fire rising. "You lied to me, Emily, for months. You cheated on me with Mark. Did you forget that part?" I know," she whispered, tears in her voice. "But I'm sorry. I want to fix this. I'll do anything, anything." I interrupted sharply. "You should think long and hard about what you're asking, because I'm not interested in fixing anything. I'm done. You chose Mark over me, over us." There was silence on the line, then she whispered, "Please, just let me explain." "No," I said, voice cold as ice. "You already did enough damage. You want to explain? Save it. I don't want to hear your lies anymore. You showed me who you really are." My pulse was racing, but I kept my tone steady. "Stay away from me. Don't try to contact me again." I hung up, feeling a strange mix of relief and fury. I'd planted the seed of her regret, and now it was only a matter of time before she realized how badly she'd screwed up. But I knew this wasn't over. No, revenge isn't just about the moment, it's about the long game. In the days that followed, I made sure she saw the evidence I'd left behind. I posted a message on social media, vague enough to be mysterious but clear enough to let her know I'd uncovered everything. "Sometimes, the truth comes out when you least expect it," I wrote. It was enough to make her panic without giving her any details. I wanted her to sit in her guilt, to wonder how much I knew and how I was going to respond. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet, watching her reactions from afar. I kept my distance, but I was always one step ahead. I knew she'd try to contact me again, maybe plead, maybe beg. That's why I prepared my next move. A letter, a final letter, one that would cut things off for good. I wanted her to understand that the game was over, that she'd lost everything she cared about. One night I printed out that letter, cold, clear, and final. I signed it with my name and left it on her front doorstep, along with the keys to her apartment. No more hiding, no more excuses, just a clean, decisive end. As I slipped the envelope through her door, I felt a strange sense of closure. I knew I'd done what I had to do. I'd taken back control of my life, and that was all that mattered. As I walked away that night, I realized something. Revenge isn't about getting even. It's about reclaiming your dignity after someone tries to destroy it. And no matter how much it hurts, sticking to your plan, cold, calculated, and firm, is what finally sets you free. A few days after I left the final note on her doorstep, I started feeling the weight lift. There was a strange clarity now, like the fog had finally cleared from my mind. I had done what I set out to do. I had exposed her, cut the ties, and reclaimed some part of myself I thought I'd lost. But even as I felt that strange relief, I knew the fallout was just beginning. She didn't reach out again, at least not immediately. But I kept watching, waiting for whatever she would do next. I wasn't naive enough to think this was over. The truth is, I'd been betrayed on a fundamental level, and that kind of hurt doesn't just disappear overnight. Still, I felt strong, like I'd taken back the power I'd handed her for too long. One afternoon, I was sitting on my balcony, watching the sunset bleed into shades of orange and purple, when I finally allowed myself to breathe freely. I had my coffee in hand, feeling the cool breeze on my skin. The silence was almost therapeutic. That's when my phone buzzed again, this time a message from Mark. My stomach clenched. I hesitated, then opened it. It was brief. Just one line: "You're better off without her. I was stupid. I never wanted to hurt you. Please, I'm sorry." I stared at the screen, feeling a rush of anger mixed with something else. Disappointment, maybe. I didn't reply. I knew what I had to do next, and it wasn't a confrontation. It was about making a statement. I remembered all the times Mark had said how much he cared for Emily, how he'd do anything for her. And here I was, thinking he was my best friend. That realization stung more than the betrayal itself. But what mattered now was my response, not his apology. It was to cut him loose for good. That night I gathered the last of my evidence, all the messages, the recordings, and even some of my own notes I'd kept during the chaos. I planned to send a final message, not just to Mark, but to everyone who'd been involved. I wanted to make it clear that I'd taken the high road, that I was done playing their game. I sat at my desk, typing out a message that was blunt but honest. To everyone involved, including Mark and Emily, I want you to know I've seen everything. I know what happened, and I refuse to be part of this any longer. I trusted you, and you threw that away. I'm moving on, and I suggest you do the same. Whatever you think you're hiding, I already know. I attached the most damning screenshots, a few recordings, and sealed the deal. The next morning, I hit send. The words felt heavy but freeing. I knew I'd made my stand. No more secrets, no more lies. I'd drawn the line. I was done being a victim. By then, I'd already started looking for new places to live, planning how to move on from this nightmare. I couldn't stay in the same city after everything, not with the memories haunting me. So I looked at new apartments, made arrangements, and prepared to leave everything behind her. Mark, the betrayal. It was time to rebuild. I also made the decision to cut out all contact. No more texts, no more calls. I wanted no part of that toxic mess. It was a clean break. I packed a small bag, took the essentials, and left the apartment for good. When I handed over the keys the next day, I felt lighter, like a heavy chain had been finally broken. Standing outside, watching the moving truck take away my things, I realized how much I'd grown through all this. I'd been pulled into a storm of betrayal, lies, and pain, but I'd come out the other side stronger. The lesson: trust isn't something you give lightly. It's something you earn, and if someone betrays that trust, you cut your losses and walk away. So here's my advice. When someone shows you their true colors, don't hesitate. Cut your losses, gather your evidence, and don't look back. Revenge isn't about hurting them, it's about reclaiming your dignity and peace. Be deliberate, stay calm, and remember, the best revenge is moving on without them. It's been a few weeks since I packed up and left. Honestly, I don't even recognize myself from that guy I was back then, angry, betrayed, hurt, but finally free. The silence has been almost healing. No more lies, no more games. I didn't want to admit it at first, but with each passing day, I felt like I was slowly rebuilding who I was before all this chaos happened. Still, I knew I couldn't just pretend this never happened. The scars are there beneath the surface, and they'll probably stay for a while. I kept a low profile, avoided social media drama, and focused on myself. I took up running again, started eating better, and even went back to therapy, not because I was broken, but because I was tired of carrying all that weight. It helped me process everything, and honestly, it gave me clarity I sorely needed. I learned that revenge, as satisfying as it felt at the moment, wasn't the real goal. Healing was, but I also knew I had to do something more, something concrete to really close the chapter. One Saturday, I found myself walking past her old apartment. It felt surreal, almost like I was watching someone else's story. The place looked empty, quiet. I saw her car still parked outside, and for a split second, everything inside me tensed up. Then I realized I'd already won. Not because I'd gotten revenge in some fiery way, but because I'd taken back control. I decided to walk away from all the pain and rebuild. That's when I made my final move. I went back to the apartment I had rented in a new city. It was small but mine, and it symbolized a fresh start. I handed over the keys to the landlord the day I signed the lease, feeling a strange mix of relief and determination. I didn't need to prove anything anymore. I knew what I'd done. I'd closed that chapter for good. Walking out that day, I handed over the keys, looked back once, and then turned away. I felt the sun on my face, the wind in my hair. The past was behind me, and I was finally ready to move forward. I realized that no matter how deep the betrayal, you don't stay stuck in the pain. You get up, pick yourself up, and keep walking, no matter how hard it is. So, here's the thing I want to tell anyone reading this. If you're stuck in a betrayal, remember that revenge is only part of the story. The real victory is in reclaiming your life. Don't let someone else's mistakes define you. Trust takes years to build, seconds to destroy, but your strength lies in how you rebuild afterward. I walked away that day knowing I'd taken back my peace, my dignity, and my future. And honestly, I don't regret a thing. Because the best revenge isn't hurting them, it's moving on and proving to yourself that you're stronger than their betrayal. Now that I've finally moved on, I look back and realize how much I've learned from all this chaos. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you what truly matters. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to listen when that little voice inside warns me something's off. I've also learned that revenge, when done right, isn't about hurting someone else, it's about reclaiming your own peace. One thing I'll never forget is how I felt the moment I left her behind. Standing in front of that new apartment, keys in hand, I knew I had done what I needed to do. No more strings, no more pain, just a clean break and a fresh start. I realized that holding on to anger or bitterness only binds you to the past. Forgiveness isn't necessarily about them, but about freeing yourself. Now, I spend my days focused on myself. I surround myself with good friends, do things I love, and rebuild my confidence. I've started dating again, cautiously, but with a new sense of awareness. Trust is earned, not given blindly. That's a lesson I carry with me every day. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone dealing with betrayal, it's this: don't let the pain turn into hatred. Use it as fuel to rebuild stronger. The person who betrayed you doesn't get to define your future. You do. Take control, gather your evidence if needed, confront if necessary, and then walk away. The real power lies in knowing when to stop and in refusing to let someone else's mistakes destroy your happiness. And finally, don't be afraid to start over. Whether it's a new place, a new job, or a new relationship, every ending is just the beginning of something better. The scars will stay, but they don't have to define you. You can learn to wear them like armor, proof that you survived and came out stronger. So here I am now, telling my story not because I want sympathy, but because I want anyone out there feeling betrayed or lost to know one thing: you are not alone, and you are stronger than you think. Trust takes years to build and seconds to break, but your worth isn't measured by someone else's betrayal. It's measured by how you pick yourself up afterward. And I promise, life gets better. It really does.